Yo, what is going on, guys? It is Cynical, and today I've got another episode of the Worlds of Kingdom Hearts 3. In today's episode, I want to go over The Jungle Book. So The Jungle Book is a movie that I've been wanting to talk about for some time now. Of course, I have been busy with a lot of other things, but I finally found some time today to sit down and finally share my opinions and ideas on, obviously, this topic. The formula is going to work as per usual. However, like Frozen, I'm going to be adding the extra category to this video, and that is, why is it so likely to appear? I believe that The Jungle Book has a very high chance of making it into Kingdom Hearts 3, so I'm going to be adding this category to sort of share my opinions on why I believe it's so likely to appear. Secondly, I'm going to be going over the world's history / film events, talking about basically what happens in the movie, etc, etc. Thirdly, I'm going to be going over the plot / world story. How is Sora going to get involved in this world and the story of that world? What's his involvement in it? Fourthly, I'm going to be talking about exploration, basically talking about the different areas that you'll explore and scenery and stuff like that. And lastly, I'm going to be going over the Keyblade that corresponds to that world. Alright guys, let's get on with it. So why is The Jungle Book so likely to appear in Kingdom Hearts 3? Well, I'm going to share my opinions with you guys right now, why I believe that The Jungle Book has a very high chance of making it into Kingdom Hearts 3. The utmost evidence is the fact that The Jungle Book was actually nearly going to be a world in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Literally, levels for it and everything were pretty much near completion. Many of the different areas that were developed for the world were actually like fully textured and everything like that. There were a few rooms that weren't completed, and some of them were untextured, but this world was actually going to be a world in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, and you can actually go into this world if you're familiar with coding and modding and stuff like that. Basically, if you go deep within the Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Japanese version of it, if you go deep within the code of it, you can actually access this world. And so obviously, I don't know, Square Enix probably thought to themselves, hey, you know, maybe it's gonna be too time restricting coming up with, you know, the rest of the world, whatever else they needed to do. It is very unknown why they decided to scrap the Jungle Book world, and I don't personally believe it was copyright issues, because sometimes that is sort of a thing with games. They sort of make something and then maybe they have some sort of like copyright strike and then they're forced to actually scrap it. But I don't feel like that's the case with Square Enix, because Square Enix do have access and privileges to most of the classic Disney movies, if not all of them. I think the only thing that they're really not allowed to touch upon as far as Disney goes is Disney Pixar, as that's a completely sort of different studio. It's just attached to Disney. So I believe it was sort of time restraints and stuff like that. So honestly, I believe that, you know, The Jungle Book has a very high chance of making it into Kingdom Hearts 3 due to the fact that Square Enix are already familiar with things like level design, textures and stuff like that. And on top of that, obviously they probably had some sort of rough concept on what the world story was going to be about, you know, how it would pan out, you know, Sora's involvement with Mowgli and stuff like that, and Bagheera and Blue and stuff. So they would probably be pretty familiar with it, and possibly they could take the ideas that they had for that world in Birth by Sleep and transfer it over to Kingdom Hearts 3, obviously make it more sort of appropriate for the story and the setting of Kingdom Hearts 3, and, you know, change it up a bit. And on top of that, The Jungle Book is a Disney classic made back in 1967, so the chances of The Jungle Book appearing, I think, are very, very high. So what is The Jungle Book about? Well, The Jungle Book centers around this character called Mowgli. Mowgli is abandoned at birth, and basically Bagheera, who is a panther, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, comes along and saves Mowgli. Basically, he knows that he can't raise Mowgli on his own, so he ends up dropping Mowgli off at a wolf family or a wolf pack, who ends up raising him until he's a boy. Quite a few years later, when he is a boy, basically the Wolf Council, whatever, the Animal Council, come to an agreement of having to actually return Mowgli back to his tribe. Due to the fact that Shere Khan, who is like the king of the jungle, is returning, and he has no acceptance whatsoever to humans. Basically, the rest of the jungle animals don't mind Mowgli, as although he is a human, he was raised by the wolves and he sort of became one of their own. But basically, they knew that if Shere Khan had returned and he saw Mowgli, he would ultimately end up killing Mowgli, as Shere Khan does not like humans. So of course, basically Mowgli has to return to the human village. All in all, he doesn't want to, return. He loves his jungle life. He grew up there and stuff. And basically that's what it's about. That's pretty much it. Of course, a lot of stuff happens along the way, and I'll get into that in the actual plot and world story. But basically, it's all about sort of Mowgli, having to return back to his normal human life, and him learning valuable lessons along the way. Of course, survival and stuff like that. So how exactly could this storyline of, returning Mowgli back to his normal human life and the Jungle Book story fit into Kingdom Hearts? For me, it's a pretty simple and basic concept, but pretty much I believe that Sora, Donald, and Goofy would come into this whole story arc basically when Mowgli gets kidnapped by the monkeys. Now this is a scene after pretty much Mowgli meets Blue, and Blue is this bear who basically Blue reckons that he can take care of Mowgli, and of course ultimately ends up failing to do so within the first few minutes of looking after Mowgli, and he ultimately gets kidnapped by these monkeys. Now basically Sora, Donald, and Goofy would probably walk out of some path or something, and they would see all these monkeys go by, obviously with Mowgli in one of the monkeys' hands. Now of course they wouldn't know what's going on, so they just let these monkeys run by or whatever. Basically Sora, Donald, and Goofy would probably end up walking down the track more, and they would come in contact with Blue and Bagheera. Blue and Bagheera would probably look like panicked and stuff like that, and they'd say, have you seen any monkeys with the boy, blah blah blah. And then Sora would be like, oh yeah, actually there was some back there. And then from there on in, Blue and Bagheera would probably explain the situation, explain that Mowgli, is ours, we're looking after him, those monkeys are bad, we need help, sort of thing. And then from there on in, Sora would most likely end up helping Blue and Bagheera save Mowgli, and of course return him to his normal human life. Now basically, Louie would most likely be a sort of mini, sort of halfway boss for this world. As pretty much as soon as you get into the world, you would be with Blue and Bagheera, and you would have to go to the ruins in which where Louie is located and where the monkeys took Mowgli. So there you'd probably end up sort of fighting Louie, and then obviously getting Mowgli back. Once you save Mowgli, of course, Blue would break the news to Mowgli about Blue actually having to return Mowgli, as Blue said that's that's nonsense to Mowgli, having to return back to the human tribe. I'll take care of you and you can live in the jungle. After that, of course, Mowgli runs away, and then Blue would probably ask you to help retrieve and find Mowgli once again. Of course, you'd go searching and searching and searching. You'd obviously end up at the final sort of part where the movie takes place, and that's sort of the swampy sort of area. And this is where you'd end up fighting Shere Khan. So Shere Khan would act as the final boss for the Jungle Book world. Shere Khan would most likely, have dark powers or some sort of darkness infused in him due to his sort of hatred towards humans and stuff like that. But basically, once you've finally defeated Shere Khan, him acting as the final boss, you'd end up returning Mowgli. And basically, of course, if you guys have seen the movie, you'd know that Mowgli pretty much goes and returns to the human village by choice, or sort of, yeah, I'd say by choice. Of course, he's sort of gets, I'd say, hypnotized by the beauty of the skill that he sees, obviously collecting water down by this waterhole. And this very moment, I think, would be very, very cool in Kingdom Hearts. I hope that they I hope that they actually keep this very moment where Mowgli is sort of running, like chasing after. As far as exploration and scenery goes, I think the Jungle Book world would definitely be a great example of how powerful and beautiful the Kingdom Shader is. Of course, I can just picture this in my head. The Jungle Book world would definitely be full of vibrant green colors, as you're constantly surrounded by lush, jungle vegetation. And with all the added sort of extra jungle ambient sounds like streams running, distant animals, and you know, jungle bugs making jungle bug noises. I don't know. I think it would be an absolutely awesome world. As far as the different areas you'd explore, you'd most likely end up exploring the stream or the river area in which Mowgli is kidnapped by the monkeys. You know, this is the sort of river area in which where, you know, Blue in the movies like sort of, you know, swimming down. There would be a lot of random bush areas that you'd probably explore between the different sort of main areas. Of course, there would be the ruins, and this would be the area in which you fight Louie, and this is of course where the monkeys sort of headquarters are. There'd be that final swamp area. I don't know if you want to call it a swamp area, sort of the barren wasteland area in which you fight Shere Khan, and you meet up with the vultures. And then finally would be the human village, where of course Mowgli returns to his original home. So all in all, I think, you know, the Jungle Book would definitely be an amazing world as far as appearance goes. It would look so beautiful with the vibrant green lush colors. Oh man, it would just look great. Also, as far as your party members are concerned, I believe that either Bagheera or Baloo would probably be your party member. One or the other, not really too sure. It's hard to think, as you know, Bagheera and Baloo are the ones who sort of escort Mowgli along his sort of journey to returning. I would say probably Bagheera would be the party member, as he was the main escort. You know, he's always looked over Mowgli, so I'd say Bagheera would most probably be the party member for this world. And lastly, the Keyblade that corresponds to that world. So I can just picture this Keyblade being sort of similar to the Jungle King. That is the Keyblade that you get, of course, in Kingdom Hearts 1 from Tarzan's world, Deep Jungle. It'd probably be sort of concepted around that. Similarities I can really see. It's hard to think of the, like, sort of its own individual design, possibly some vines wrapped around it or something, but it'll probably look pretty similar to the Jungle King Keyblade. Basically, I sort of came up with my own name for it, Jungle Memories or something like that, along the lines of that. But anyway, guys, that is my sort of opinion and my ideas on a Jungle Book world being implemented in Kingdom Hearts 3. I really hope we get to, of course, have a Jungle Book world, because I loved the movie. It is a classic Disney film, and Square Enix have attempted to make it in the past, so I don't see why they wouldn't sort of go back there and add it in Kingdom Hearts 3. They've got all the knowledge and sort of stuff like that, and they've already proven themselves that they can actually make a Jungle Book world. So there we go. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and like always, if you guys liked the video, definitely hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.